Hey everyone, Enra Silver here, and if you haven't seen my friend Nuki 000's base from the Ides of Spring event, you need to pause this video and follow the link at the top of the screen right now. A must-see build. But I digress. Welcome to episode 1 of the Build Journal for the Technology Overload Recovery Center, or TORC. Today, I'm going to go over the 2 different approaches I use to build Zen gardens. Hopefully you'll be able to find something in them you can adapt to your own builds. But first, let's admire the glitchcraft. Simply stunning. The first garden I built was actually the furthest away at the end of the path, and it was the only one I built on a slope. To start with, I placed a floor tile and adjusted its angle so it was parallel with the slope of the hill. I then made a 12-sided circle off the original floor. I picked this specific spot because even though it was sloped, the slope was steady throughout, so the circle will be parallel with the surface of the ground as well. Once the 12-sided circle was built, I put placeholder floors on the outside, deleted the circle, and replaced every other floor with a small floor, and then used short walls as placeholders for the small floors and deleted them. I then went around adjacency glitching small floor panels into the other spots and using the short wall placeholders to replace the first set. I did this because if I had used full floor panels and tried to snap quad hydroponic trays onto them, the trays start to collide in red state. By using the small floor panels, I was able to green state a single hydroponic tray and adjacency to the quad. Once I had them almost all placed, I realized my error. They needed to be below the surface of the ground, so when I deleted the scaffolding comp and made them go away, the plants left behind would have their roots underground instead of hovering in the air. So I dropped each small floor down into the ground by one short wall and then replaced the quad hydroponic trays. So I did some quick cleanup and then started planting. For this first garden, I decided to go with all frostwort since this plant was very far away from the correct environment for them to be naturally grown in. I then dropped the center tile down into the ground by one short wall and centered a pyramid adornment on it. I then centered a wire on top of the adornment and ran wires off it down each side. I then replaced the center tile with a metal one so I have the center marking to guide me as I place my BCE. Here is where I discover my error. BCEs simply don't work on a slope. I tried multiple items and nothing worked. I ended up using the chitinous cage as it was the least obvious that it was level while the plants followed the slope. I was also able to green state a large plant inside of it. I picked a void husk for here. I then glitched 2 gas extractors and 2 autonomous mineral extractors onto opposite sides of the BCE using the previously placed wires. I then glitched lanterns onto each one of these spots as well to give a little more light to the whole thing. Now it's time to set up the railings to enclose the garden. I used doorways to rebuild the 12-sided circle except for openings at the front and back. Next, I put wooden arches at several different elevations, and of course, the one that looks best requires a micro adjustment. More work for the wicked. After all the arches get sunk to the ground, I move on to the next garden. For all the rest of the gardens, I make the center level and adjust each panel individually, so I can put different kinds of BCEs in the middle. I make the center out of concrete panels since I'm going to be adjacency glitching windows onto them and concrete won't cascade. Next, I figure out the right height for short walls to snap arches onto for railings, and then get the circle of small panels placed and lowered into the ground, adjusting each one individually to get them into the ground, but not so far into the ground that the plants are unable to be seen. Now I get the quad hydroponic trays placed and then center a pyramid on the middle tile using total wire control and set the wires like I did previously. Now I work my way around the hexagon, adjacency glitching windows onto each panel and placing a pill light at the top middle. Once all the windows are in, the lights are going to be covered. the windows get placed, I do a BCE with the withered stump, making sure to leave some lanterns behind when I leave build camera. Now I want to point out that this has to be done in this order. I tried putting the windows in after I'd put the BCE down, and several of the ladders would red state. But if I put the windows in first, I could make the BCE as big as I wanted without it red stating. I then wire up the pill lights, and the whole thing has a pretty damn good look. After planting a wider variety of plants here, I glitch 4 autonomous mineral extractors onto the 4 connection points, and then a glitching separator onto each spot as well. Well, that's going to do it for episode 1 of the Build Journal for the TORC. Check back in a few days for episode 2, where I'll go over building the stone walkway. As always, if you like the content, hit the subscribe button, and I will talk to y'all later.